friends, today I am here to talk to you about something new, and that is 3D shapes. First, let's start out by looking at the shapes that we've already learned about. We've learned about squares, triangles, circles, and rectangles. We've also learned about other shapes like hearts and stars. But the thing about these shapes is they are two-dimensional or 2D. That means that you can measure these shapes in two different ways. I have my measuring tape here, and I know that we've been talking about non-standard forms of measure, and we've used things like paper clips, or I know Lily Mae used pacifiers to measure how long something was in her house, which is awesome. This is called a measuring tape, and this measures in inches. So if I want to measure my square, I can measure how long it is, and I can measure how tall it is. But as you can see, this is a piece of paper, and there's no way that if I turn it this way and I want to measure this side, there's no way to measure that side. It's a flat piece of paper. So the word for that is depth. This does not have depth. I can't measure three different ways. I can only measure from top to bottom or side to side. I can't measure from front to back. So those are the two dimensions, length and width. This is a little bit of a tricky concept, but I think some of you will understand what I'm talking about. It's the same with a circle. I can use my measuring tape and I can measure how tall it is. I can measure how wide it is, but I can't measure how deep it is because there's no depth. It's so thin. Same with all of these other shapes. Well, we are going to talk about something called 3D shapes, and that means you can measure them three different ways. You can measure them from top to bottom, side to side, but also from front to back. You are a 3D person, meaning I could measure you from top to bottom, side to side, and also from front to back. Like if you put your hand on your tummy and you put your hand on your back, I could measure from the front of myself to the back of myself if I wanted to and see how deep my body is. So let's take a look at some of the 3D shapes I found in my house. I went on a shape hunt, and I have to say it was a little tricky to find certain ones of these shapes. But the first one I want to start with is spheres. Spheres remind me a little bit of a circle, but instead of being flat like this circle, they're 3D. Let me show you some of the spheres I found in my house. The first one I found is a globe. This is a model of what the Earth looks like from outer space. And it kind of reminds me of a circle because it has curved edges, just like a circle does. But instead of being flat, this globe has depth. I can measure how tall it is. I can measure how wide it is. And I can also measure how deep my globe is. So there's a sphere. A sphere is the shape of a ball. Let me show you the other spheres I found in my house. One of them is my dog Logan's favorite toy. Can you guess what it is? A tennis ball. That is the shape of a sphere, just like the globe. And I also found this is a keychain, and it has a rain poncho inside of it, but this is also the shape of a sphere. So I have three spheres here. The next 3D shape I want to show you is called a cube. A cube. Have you ever heard the word cube before? Sometimes you hear about ice cubes. And ice cubes are not usually actually the shape of a real cube. It was kind of difficult to find actual cubes in my house because this cube has a G on it, but we're gonna have to pretend like it doesn't have a G on it. So the sides of a cube look like the shape of a square. So a cube has, let's count how many sides a cube has. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 flat sides that are the shape of a square. So I found some pretty close to cubes. This isn't quite a cube because the sides of a cube all have to be the same shape, a square. And so this is a little bit different, but this is some makeup that I found that looked pretty much like a cube. And the best cube that I found was this box. I can tell that all the sides are the shape of a square and they're all the same. So this is another cube that I found in my house. All right, so I've got my spheres. Oh, the lid came open. I've got my cubes. I'm gonna move them to the side. And I have another shape to show you. The next shape that is a 3D shape. Like I said, I can measure how tall it is, how wide it is, and I can also measure from front to back how deep it is. This shape is called a cylinder. A cylinder. And a cylinder has a curved edge, kind of like a sphere, but on the top and the bottom, a cylinder has flat sides that are the shape of a circle. So I found some cylinders in my house. Cylinders can be tall or short, wide or narrow. Here's another different cylinder that I found in my house. Let me move some of these spheres out of the way for us. So, 2 different cylinders. You can see, oh, my spheres are rolling away. You can see that this sphere has a circle on the top, or I'm sorry, this cylinder, so sorry friends, has a circle shape on the top and a circle shape on the bottom and a curved edge all the way around, just like this cylinder. Another 3D shape. And I have one last 3D shape to share with you. And it was kind of tricky to find this 3D shape around my house. It's called a cone. Have you ever eaten ice cream out of a cone? Well, these are the closest to cone shapes that I could find in my house. These are called funnels. But honestly, I'd have to cut off the top to make it a real actual cone. And I found another little scooper in my house that looks kind of like a cone, but it would have to have a pointy edge. So I actually am gonna have to make my own cone to show you what a true cone looks like. As you can see on these, a cone has a circle shape on the bottom and then it comes to a point at the top. So let's see if Mrs. Giffen can make a cone for us. I started with a circle. Let's see here, and I'm gonna roll it up. I've got some tape here. I'm gonna tape it down. So, oh, I got my pointy edge. And the bottom of my cone needs to be a flat circle. One second, let's see how I can do this here. So I need the bottom of my cone to be a flat circle shape. So I'm gonna cut off some of my paper here. And I've got a pretty good cone shape for us. Pretty good. Not perfect, but a little better than these ones that I found. So you can see that my cone has a pointy top. It's smooth around the edges and it has a flat circle shape on the bottom. So cones were a little tricky. I'm not really sure. Maybe you will have something better in your house that is a better cone shape than what I have. But just like the other 3D shapes, I can measure how tall it is, I can measure how wide it is, and I can measure how deep it is. So those are the 1, 2, 3 dimensions of a 3D shape: height, width, and depth. So I hope this has helped you understand a little bit more about 3D shapes today. And I'm excited to see what 3D shapes you find around your house. Have a great day, friends.